coming up on RPM today.
What happened was just an attack on our freedom.
Watching these sad stories and you know they're sad stories. I mean, it's awful. And can we focus on our deal? I don't know.
And it's going to be tough going to Dover. But, I mean, once you strap those helmets on and that green flag falls, it's going to be back to business.
This will bring everybody closer together and help us to realize what's really important.
Winston Cup drivers head to Dover trying to tame the Monster Mile, while this Tiger roars towards the 700 Club.
That's a lot of races. It doesn't really seem like I've been doing it that long to me.
CART continued its European tour with the thoughts and prayers of its drivers and fans elsewhere. And the dragsters take their show to Memphis, trying to avoid scenes like this in 2001. It's race day in America. RPM Today is next. Welcome, race fans, and thanks for dropping by on RPM Today. I'm Whit Watson. While the entire world copes with the aftermath of the attacks on the United States, the racing schedule picks up where it left off this weekend. We'll have you up to speed in 30 minutes. Several weeks ago, NASCAR announced that this weekend's event at Dover Downs would be renamed in honor of Baltimore Oriole Cal Ripken Jr., who's retiring after this baseball season. Now, no offense to Cal, but that seems rather insignificant now. Instead, today's MB&A Cal Ripken Jr. 400 represents a halting return to normalcy for the Winston Cup Tour, the first Winston Cup race since the attacks on September 11th. Mike Massaro is in Dover, where it is business as usual once again, to a point. Mike?
Well, Whit, it has been an emotional return to action for NASCAR. As you know, flags have always been a part of this sport. The green, the yellow, the white, and of course the checkers. But this week, it's very much about the American flag. The stars and stripes are represented on nearly every race car in today's field. And what a difference a week can make. Last Sunday, racing seemed absolutely meaningless. But today, it takes on a very important role in the healing process.
Everyone's been grieving, and now you're back in a race car again, and it's kind of an escape, a little bit of a mental escape from the day-to-days that we've all been going through. So, you know, you can't help but think of what all those people and all the families have gone through. But, you know, as far as for us concerned, you know, we're back in the race cars. You get buckled up in there, your focus is 120% on what you've got to do at the time.
Once you get in the car and you get running, you get thinking about springs and shocks and engines and gears and stuff like that, you're into the cars. Really working hard in the car. Then after that's over, you're kind of thinking about everything else again.
I think you'll be focused on your racing. You know, obviously if nothing happens dramatic between now and then, and so a lot of people are going to show up at this race and want to see us to put on a good race for them. So, you know, we got to get our game face on and do what we've been doing for so many years now.
The primary contenders for the Winston Cup title, Jeff Gordon, Ricky Rudd, and Dale Jarrett, have all enjoyed recent success at Dover, especially Gordon, who scored his fourth Dover victory this past June, dominating by leading 381 of 400 laps in the process. If there's an edge to be found for the Yates guys, it's that today Gordon starts 23rd, while Jarrett's on the pole, and Rudd has momentum coming off a victory at Richmond.
We carried that momentum, I feel like, so far into Dover. The cars run extremely well off the truck. The slowest lap I ran was when I qualified, and it's still good enough for fourth place. But I think we're feeling the momentum from Richmond carried into Dover. And, you know, this team gets along so well. It doesn't take much of a boost to really pick everybody up.
We know that Jeff dominated the first race here, and I'm sure that he's going to be good again, but you don't know what will happen. I know he's starting back a little bit. Things happen in a hurry. We're glad we're up front. Ricky's up front. Maybe it'll be a race that we can pick up some more points.
And Dover is a track where points can be gained or lost. The attrition rate is often high, and just about everyone is vulnerable to a hit in the points. To say the least, the Monster Mile moniker is well earned.
It's really choppy and bumpy, so when you go in the corner, the car wants to slide up, put too much steering angle in it, the back end will come around. So you got to get the car neutral to where the driver can turn the wheel. It still turns, but not getting the bind and get the back end coming around.
For obvious reasons, security has also been an issue this weekend at Dover Downs International Speedway. No coolers or backpacks have been allowed in. Everyone is subject to search. That includes the fans, media, and even the drivers.
Mike, for the last 10 days or so, we've seen tributes with patriotic themes, especially at stadiums across the country. And NASCAR's audience generally is pretty receptive to that sort of thing. What's planned for Dover today?
Well, Whit, it could be a very moving patriotic tribute. Lee Greenwood will be here to sing God Bless the USA. Tanya Tucker will also sing the national anthem, as well as America the Beautiful. The flyover, however, has been canceled because of the FAA and observing the no-fly zone over the stadium today. But one thing is for sure, there will be 140,000 fans here today, and everyone will receive an American flag when they walk through the gates.
Speaking of numbers, Terry Labonte making his 700th start today. We'll have more on that later in the show. Right now, 25th in points, just 3 top 10s this season. Mike, there have been rumors that maybe T-Lab will hang it up after this year. What do you hear about that?
Well, I think those rumors are false. I had the opportunity to speak with Terry a couple of weeks ago back at Richmond. He is disappointed, but not disillusioned. He hopes that this is just a bump in the road. And keep in mind, he has had inconsistencies throughout his career. In 1984, he won his first championship. After that, he had some lean seasons, finishing outside the top 10 in points. But he did rebound in 1996 to win his second title. This year, a little bit different, though. He's 25th in points, as you mentioned. He's never finished lower than 18th.
And finally, who are the contenders to watch for today at Dover?
Well, Jeff Gordon led 381 of 400 laps here back in June, but he has his work cut out for him this afternoon. He starts 23rd, while his chief competitors in the points race, Dale Jarrett and Ricky Rudd, start in the top 5. But there are some dark horses. Keep in mind, Kevin Harvick in his rookie season has shown some brilliance on the concrete racetracks. He's been strong at Bristol. He was also strong here in June. But my pick is Tony Stewart. In 5 appearances here at the Monster Mile, he's never finished outside the top 10.
All right, Mike, thanks, and we will hear from you again later.
Okay, Whit.
Kart's much ballyhooed swing through Europe has been something less than spectacular. Alex Zanardi is still in a Berlin hospital this weekend, having lost both his legs in a horrific accident last week at a new track in Germany. This week, the venue at Rockingham, England, was besieged with rain, causing water to seep onto the track in all 4 corners. Qualifying was canceled. The start time was pushed back on Saturday, and the race was shortened to 400 kilometers. The inaccurately named Rockingham 500, as they tried to get the track dry, every car with a sticker honoring Alex Zanardi, and the British Guards playing the national anthem of the U.S. in honor of the fallen. Former champion, current F1 driver Juan Montoya back to visit his friends. He won last week at Monza, finally. To the race, and early on, Max Pappas would spin out, goes through the grass, and somehow hangs on and gets it back under control. Bruno Juncara and Tora Takagi put out. Pappas would finish 11th. Lap 46, Kenny Breck around Gilles de Ferran for the lead, and he would hold that lead for much of the way. He loves ovals. Lap 51, Michel Jourdain with a spare brings out the second caution of the day. He would finish in 19th. Lap 96, Adrian Fernandez, watch the motor. Poof, there it goes, blows the engine. Third caution of the day there. They would shorten the race to 140 laps due to darkness. So the last scheduled pit stop, Breck comes in as the leader but has some trouble. Gilles de Ferran beats the pack out. Breck second, Castro Neves third, but watch Castro Neves jump the gun a little bit coming out of pit road and then hammering on the brakes. He accelerates at the dashed line ahead of D'Amata and Michael Andretti. D'Amata would later protest and actually win the protest. They would move Castro Neves back. With 30 to go, de Ferran leads Breck by a slim margin, but with 3 to go, things between these two got downright intense.
De Ferran getting caught there. Here comes Kenny Breck. De Ferran comes down the inside. Breck moves to the outside. Breck takes the lead with 2 to go.
And that's the race right there.
Not so fast, my friend. That looked like it was it, but there was still more.
There, doing everything he can. De Ferran goes high.
Looking outside.
And De Ferran takes him. De Ferran takes him on the final corner, final lap. And Gilles de Ferran wins his first race of the year.
Paul Page and Parker Johnstone had the call. Roger Penske has the celebration. Gilles de Ferran has his first win of the season and the 6th of his career. His teammate Castro Neves got bumped back to 4th. Breck keeps the points lead, but Gilles de Ferran seizing the momentum.
Joe, let's go over those last couple of laps because it doesn't get much more exciting. What did you think when Kenny got by you there in traffic?
Well, you know, I tried to hold him back. I got stuck. I thought I was getting by Max on the turn 4 there. They shut the door, and I thought, oh, no. So I started to understeer, and I really had a bad exit. So Kenny just blew by me, and I'm like, this is not finished yet. So I gotta stay right in his toe. So come the last lap, he had the same problem. He was stuck in traffic. So I was able to, you know, he backed off going into 2. I backed off going into 2. I said, right, here we go. You know, so I nailed it a little bit before him and had a little run. So that was it. And then going into the last turn, I said, I was, you know, quarter of a car ahead of him, and I had the line. So it's all right, here we go, baby.
Now, if memory serves correctly, your only other oval win was the Penske team's 100th on the mile oval at Nazareth. You hadn't led a lap on an oval this year. What's it feel like to not only lead a lap, but to win this race and get the extra point for leading most laps?
I tell you, it was a great weekend for us. I mean, obviously we were a bit lost in Germany. We thought a lot about it, made a few changes for this weekend. The car was hooked up ever since I got in it this morning. It was great. The car was really handling well. First stint, I got a little bit loose. That's why Kenny got by, and then Roger made a brilliant call there on the last pit stop and got me ahead. And from there, I knew I had a fast car. So it was the way traffic and everything went.
And I think it's only 6 points separating you now and that man in front of you, Kenny Breck. That's good news for you.
So Kenny Breck did lose some of his lead, and the bad news for him is that there's only one more oval race this season, Fontana, the season finale. And ovals are where Breck does his damage. DeFerrin now with 6 straight top 10 finishes to make this an interesting race. And Castro Neves and Andretti are still very much in the hunt.
It was close. It's very disappointing, but DeFerrin was strong and there was nothing we could do about him. I tried everything, but it slipped out. I was down on the apron going into the corner to avoid contact, so it was close, but last corner, you know, that's going to be tight, so it's no problem.
I don't know what happened on the pits. The first pit stop, we came back in 9th or 10th or something like that, and then the pit stop did a fantastic job. We leave like really fast, and it was a really big battle behind that, and thank God I was able to jump and be in 3rd place.
And I think he forgot, because where the line used to be in the morning, he went and switched his pit crews off, and he passed me and he passed Michael too. So suddenly, inside the 50-mile-an-hour speed limit, his car just went bop and passes both.
So in your mind, it's a clear-cut issue. You think you should be in 3rd place, is that right?
Yeah, in my mind, I am 3rd. I should be there on the podium.
And actually, as it turned out, he was 3rd. Meanwhile, Jimmy Vasser with his first top 10 finish since Cleveland. Tony Kanaan now with 6 straight finishes of 12th or better. And Townsend Bell finished 13th and 12th in his 2-race European audition with Patrick. Still to come, the NHRA goes walking in Memphis. A check of the AutoZone Nationals upcoming on RPM. Terry Labonte reaching the magic number 700 today. We'll take a look back and see how the 2-time Winston Cup champion got there. And more from England, a wet and wild weekend for the kart series. All the racing news you need right here on RPM Today. At the AutoZone Nationals outside Memphis, a special weekend for Tony Schumacher's Top Fuel team, sponsored by the U.S. Army. Bruce Sarver also displaying the colors. Top Fuel qualifying, Larry Dixon against Kenny Bernstein. Some side-by-side drag racing here. They're neck and neck until 1,000 feet. Bernstein with a bit of tire spin. And Dixon qualifies in 4.581, Bernstein 4.6. Funny car qualifying, Ron Capps and John Force. Capps holds up pretty well on this run until about halfway. Tires break loose, and he would have to shut it down. Force with the quickest pass of the session, 4.824. Larry Dixon leads the standings, has the pole in Top Fuel. John Force with his 105th career top qualifying position. Mike Coughlin, a track record in trucks. Jim Yates, interesting story. He was #1 in pro stock, but then was taken to a hospital in Memphis after complaining of chest pains. We'll get the latest now with Marty Reed.
Whit, for the first time in recent history that anyone can remember, the #1 qualifier in pro stock will not make the call. Jim Yates, suffering chest pains yesterday after the 3rd round of qualifying, is still in a Memphis hospital in the cardiac care unit undergoing a battery of tests. What it means on the track is that he came into this race 2nd in the points by only 80 behind Warren Johnson, and he was by far the dominant car on the racetrack. Obviously, from a personal standpoint, the only thoughts that the team and the NHRA family have is that Jim Yates will be okay. Now, as we take a look at qualifying in the other 2 professional categories at Top Fuel, you'll see that #1, Larry Dixon, again with his 2nd pole this year, is going to be the car to beat coming into today's round. But don't count out Kenny Bernstein, because Bernstein has been very consistent. He'll be on the other side of the ladder. As you can see, Bernstein will run up against Jim Cavallari in round #1. And then in funny car, well, John Force set the track record at a 482 in qualifying. qualifying, and Force will be up against old nemesis Jim Epler. Remember, Epler has knocked him out twice in the last 3 races. We'll see you at 2 o'clock Eastern Time here from Memphis Motorsports Park.
All right, Marty, thanks very much indeed. 2 o'clock Eastern Time, the AutoZone Nationals early round eliminations, and the finals at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That is today on ESPN2. One British columnist wrote, "It is a spectacle as unbelievably skillful and daring as it is noisy." Members of the European racing media were suitably impressed with the kart series, although several riders used this weekend to speculate as to which kart driver would be best suited for F1. Robin Miller tells us that despite a host of problems, kart did put on a good show.
Well, Whit, I know it's getting dark here, but the good news is they got a race in Rockingham, England, and the fans got their money's worth. The finish was fabulous. Kenny Brack and Jill DeFerrin trading places. But the story this whole weekend was no practice Thursday, no practice Friday, all the problems with the track, leaking water, big traffic jam, the ticket prices are too much. These British fans, not only are good race fans, they're the most patient people in the world. They sit through this whole thing. Nobody said a word. They got 68 laps shorted out of the race. But with a finish like that, believe me, they got their money's worth. All the Formula One journalists in the media center today were just flabbergasted. They'd never seen anything like the race or the finish. You saw more passing here on a track that really wasn't that conducive to passing than these Formula One guys have seen in 2 years together. And all I can say is this is the kind of thing that reflects well on kart. They threw this thing together under the worst circumstances, and the guys of these teams, the mechanics, are the guys that deserve the tip of the hat, because they haven't got a lot of sleep. They're worried about their families at home and the situation in the United States, and they come here and put a show on like this. It renews your faith in this series. That's why it's the best series in racing. And I'm just happy to say my RPM Tonight hat only cost 10 pounds, and it's back to you, Whit. We'll see you when we get back stateside, buddy.
All right, Robin, be safe. Saturday's race marked the 3rd Champ Car race in England, the other 2 in 1978 before kart took control of the series. Those races were held on consecutive weeks in October of 1978, won by legends Rick Mears and A.J. Foyt. So Gilles de Ferrin is in some pretty elite company. When we come back, the Outlaws kick dirt in the heartland. Pictures from Nebraska on the way in this half hour. The Winston Cup Series honors one Ironman at Dover. We honor another. T-Lab.